Hello, welcome to Geometry Measurement and Probability. All right, so for lesson one, we're going to talk about lines and slopes. So lines can be graphed by finding ordered pairs and plotting them. You only need 2 points to graph a line. You can use a third point or more to check and make sure you're on the right path, but you only need 2 points. 1 point is a location, 2 points is a location and a direction. So you just need 2 points. And the y equals mx plus b, which you should be familiar with, that is your slope-intercept form and your most common form of graphing a line. It's the easiest to graph from. But there's a couple of different things that we can do. The intercepts are also good points. So if your x is 0, you're dealing with your y-intercept. If your y is 0, you're dealing with your x-intercept. Okay, so for number 1 here, we have our negative 2x plus 6. All right, the plus 6 is your y-intercept, and that's your starting point. Okay, so we got 6 right here, and then we have if we solve for y, or let y be 0, we got negative 2x plus 6. All right, and then when we solve for x here, this is going to give us our x-intercept. All right, so that's going to be 2x equals 6, x equals 3. All right, so that means you got x equals 3 right here, and then you would connect your dots. All right, again, once you have 2 points, you just connect your dots, and that's your line. All right, now for 2 and 3, these are our special cases. All right, if you have f of x equals some number, or y equals some number, that is a horizontal line. So you got negative 3 down here, and then it's just a horizontal line. Like so. All right, similarly on number 3, all right, so this is a horizontal line. This one is a vertical line. Okay, so for x equals negative 3, I got negative 3 right here. And then I draw my line. There you go. So if I solved this whole thing for y on number 4, I would get this. I would get, negative 5y equals 4x, or sorry, negative 4x plus 0, which I don't have to write. And so y would be equals negative 4 over negative 5x, right, which is y equals positive 4/5 x. All right, if there's no y-intercept or no b term right there, that means it's 0. Okay, so I have, I got a point at 0, and then I go up 4. All right, remember, the slope is rise over run, as you can see right here. So on the graph, rise over run, so I'm going to go up 4, right 5. So 4. Let's see, I got 5 here, so I'll connect the dots. 4, 5. Or rather, the x comes first in order pairs. So you got 5, 4. All right, and so you connect your dots. And that's the basics. Okay, slope is a numerical measure of a steepness and orientation of a straight line. So you get rise over run, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, x sub 2 minus x sub 1, so you would do that algebraically. And if you just follow the formula, it's pretty basic. You have your slope-intercept form, which we just talked about, your point-slope form. So if, typically, when you're trying to write the equation of a line, they'll give you a point and a slope, or they'll give you 2 points. And regardless of that, you can use point-slope form to help you get to their final answer of y equals, which is that slope-intercept form right there. And then as you saw on number 4, both the x's and the y's are on the same side. All right, that is your typical general form, sometimes referred to as standard form, where everything's on the left side, and it's either set equal to 0 or set equal to a constant term. So just keep that in mind. So on number 5 here, we're going to find the slope. All right, and again, if you just follow the formula, it's pretty straightforward. So you have x1, y1, x2, y2. And so we have slope. Y2 is negative 3. Y1 is 8. All right, and then you have 2 minus negative 4. Remember, two negatives make a positive, so on top I got negative 11 over 6. 2 minus negative 4 is 2 plus 4, that's 6. So negative 11 over 6 is my slope. All right, now on 6, you'll notice a couple things. First of all, I do this and you got negative 4 minus 7 on top, and you have 2 minus 2 on the bottom. So you end up with 0 on the bottom. So it doesn't really matter what's going on top. If 0 is in the bottom, my slope is undefined. Okay, so when your x's are the same, slope is undefined, and your line is vertical. All right, number 7, do the same thing. We have negative 3 minus negative 3 over negative 2 minus 5. That should be minus negative 3. All right, so you got negative 3 plus 3, which is 0. And then you get negative 7 on the bottom. If 0 is on the top of the fraction, it doesn't matter what the bottom is. You end up with 0 as your answer. Okay, so when your y's are the same, your slope is 0, and the line is horizontal. Okay, so let's use this information that we just did with finding slope and find the actual equation of the line. Okay, so finding the slope from the equation above. Here, I have everything I need. So let's just go ahead and solve for y. So this is going to be 3y equals negative 4x plus 12. Divide by 3, y equals negative 4 thirds x plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay. And now that I have it in slope-intercept form, my slope is going to be what's in front of x, so negative 4 thirds. Okay. On 9, same thing, solve for y. So you got negative 5y equals negative 2x plus 10. Divide by negative 5, y equals 2 negatives is positive, so you got positive 2/5 x. 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. And my slope is what's in front of x. So my slope here is going to be positive 2/5. Okay, now, if the equation is written in this form, like we've seen before, then we can solve this for y. So you get by equals negative ax plus c. Divide, you get y equals negative a over b plus c over b. Now, so if it's in this equation, you can see real quickly, if it's in the general form or standard form, you can see real quickly that there are shortcuts you can use to find the slope and the y-intercept. So you have a slope shortcut and a y-intercept shortcut if you choose to use it, but you don't have to. You can always just solve for y and go about your day. So on number 10, the graph of the line passing through the point negative 1, 5 and having the slope negative 5 thirds. So you can go ahead and do that from the jump, or you can find your equation of the line. And if we do that, we could use point slope formula. So we have y. Remember, my point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I pulled that from the table above. All right, so this would be y minus, my y is 5. My slope is negative 5 thirds. X minus negative 1. All right, so it's going to be y minus 5 equals negative 5 thirds x plus 1. Okay, so y minus 5 equals negative 5 thirds x minus 5 thirds. All right, 5 is the same thing as 15 over 3. So I can say y equals negative 5 thirds x minus 5 thirds plus 15 over 3. And so my final equation is going to be y equals negative 5 thirds x plus 10 over 3. Okay, so that's my equation. You can use that. But because 10 over 3 is my starting point, let's do, so let's see, we got negative 1, negative 1, 5. That's a point right there. And then if we use our slope, negative 5, 3, so that dropping 5 would take us back to the x-axis, and then you got negative 1, 0, 1, 2. All right, so that's 3 spots. So this would be my second point, and I can connect my dots there. So you've heard the phrase before, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and that's one of the things you can do here. We know that negative 1, 5 is a point on the graph, and then we can go from that point to, and then use the slope, negative 5/3, to get to the second point. And once you have 2 points, you can draw your line. All right, so just to sum up, a line with positive slope goes up from left to right. The negative slope goes down from left to right. A slope of 0 is a horizontal line, and a slope of undefined is a vertical line. Okay, so we are going to find the equations of these lines to wrap this up. Okay, so using point slope formula, we have, let's see, y minus 3 equals negative 2 x minus 1. So y minus 3 equals negative 2x plus 2, y equals negative 2x. You're going to add the 3's, it's plus 5. So this is my equation. Okay. Now, 12, it says it's undefined slope, and we've already talked about how it's undefined slope if it's vertical. And if it's vertical, that means it's x equals a number, which we also saw from previous problems in the table above. So because it's undefined slope, I just care about the x. And so my equation is simply going to be x equals negative 8. So that's my equation. Likewise, on 13, my slope is 0. So if my slope is 0, I only care about the y value because this is a horizontal line. So y equals negative 8. Okay. Now, 14 says write the equation given 2 points. So the first thing we need to do, if we got 2 points, is to go find the slope. So y equals 4 minus 3 over 3 minus negative 1. Get 1 over 4. So that's my slope. So I got y minus, and because I got 2 points to begin with, it doesn't matter which one you choose. You just need to pick one to start the process. And so let's see, I got y. Let's see, I got y minus 3 equals 1/4 x minus negative 1. 1/4 x plus 1, y minus 3 equals 1/4 x plus 1/4. 3 is the same thing as 12 over 4. So I got y equals 1/4 x plus 1/4. If you add the 3 to the other side, that's going to be the same thing as adding 12 over 4. So y equals 1/4 x plus 13 over 4 as your equation. 15. All right, so you have your x-intercept 3, 0, and you have your y-intercept 0, negative 2. All right, so let's find our slope. We have negative 2 minus 0, 0 minus 3. This is going to be negative 2 over negative 3, which is positive 2/3. All right, because if you have the option, we didn't have the option on 14, but if you have the option to be able to multiply a fraction by something that's going to get rid of the fraction, that's the point you want to choose. So for this one, we got y minus 0 equals 2/3 x minus 3. And when I multiply the 2/3 by the 3, it just gives me a positive number. Also, the 0 is just going to make things really nice. You got 2/3 x minus 2. 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. So that's my equation. Okay, now, last topic in this section, Two distinct lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. Two lines are perpendicular if and only if their slope has a product of -1. Thus, the slopes of the products are negative or opposite reciprocals. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is if they have the same slope, they're parallel. If they don't have the same slope, you check to see if the slopes have a product of -1, and if they do, then it is perpendicular. If it's not, if they're not the same and they don't have a product of -1, it's neither. So parallel, perpendicular, neither. So we got slope 1, we got 6 minus 3, 2 minus -2, we got 2 minus -2. All right, 6 minus 3 is 3. This is going to be 4. All right, I don't know if it's parallel or perpendicular until I find the second slope. So let's do that. All right, so it's going to be 3 minus 0 over 3 minus -1. So it's going to be 3 over 4. 3/4, 3/4, they're both the same. So there's nothing else I need to do. These are parallel. And sometimes parallel is used as shorthand to do that, which is the double bar right there. And then the upside down T means perpendicular. Those are just shorthand ways of writing it. All right, so you got parallel on that one, 17. You got to find both slopes. So you got slope 1. It's going to be 4 minus 2 over 5 minus 0. That's going to give me 2 over 5. All right, slope 2. It's going to be 3 minus 8 over 3 minus 1. This is going to be -5 over 2. All right, they're clearly not the same, so I need to check the product. So 2/5 times -5/2. All right, that is going to give me a product of -1. So this is perpendicular. Okay. Now on 18, my first slope is 6 minus 8 over 2 minus -1. That's going to be -2 over 3. And my second slope is going to be 3 minus 2 over 3 minus -1. That's going to give me 1 over 4. These are clearly not the same. All right, so let's check the product. All right, so you got -2/3 times 1/4. That's going to give you a product of -2 over 6, which reduces to -1/3. All right, that is not -1. So this is not parallel and it's not perpendicular. So we call that neither. So parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Parallel is the same slope. Perpendicular has a product of the slope product is -1. And if it doesn't fit one of those, it is neither. All right, guys. I hope you got something out of that. I'll see you in the next lesson.